The docking bay of Station Epsilon 7 was busy as always. Ships came and went, carrying traders, diplomats, and travelers from across the galaxy. The station floated in space like a massive wheel, home to hundreds of different alien species. Each one had their own strengths, their own place in the galactic order. Humans had a place too. At the bottom, Ambassador Una stood near the observation deck reviewing her notes for the next council meeting. She had been fighting for 3 years to get better conditions for human colonies. 3 years of being laughed at, ignored, or worse, pitied. The other species saw humans as weak. Too fragile, they said. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Just soft skin and breakable bones. A sudden alarm made her look up. The docking bay lights flashed yellow, signaling an emergency arrival. Una moved closer to the window and watched as a small human transport ship limped into the bay. The hull was scorched and dented, barely holding together. It looked like it had been through a war. Around her, aliens began to gather. A group of tall reptilian Draxians pointed at the ship and laughed. "Look, another human ship falling apart," one of them said. "They cannot even maintain their vessels properly." Una felt her jaw tighten, but she said nothing. She had learned that arguing only made things worse. The ship's door opened with a hiss of steam. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a figure emerged from the darkness inside. It was a human man, maybe in his 30s. He wore a torn combat suit covered in stains that might have been blood, oil, or both. His face was weathered, marked with scars that ran across his cheek and forehead. His dark hair was messy, and his eyes looked tired, like he had not slept in weeks. But that was not what made everyone stare. Across his shoulders, he carried something enormous. At first, Una could not understand what she was seeing. Then her breath caught in her throat. It was a void stalker. The creature was dead, its 6 limbs hanging limp. But even in death, it was terrifying. 12 feet long, covered in thick black armor that could deflect most weapons. Its claws were as long as her forearm, and its mouth was full of teeth designed to tear through metal and flesh alike. Void stalkers were nightmares. They lived in deep space, hunting ships for food. They could survive without air, without heat, without anything. Military fleets avoided systems where these creatures nested. No one hunted void stalkers. You ran from them or you died. The human carried the massive corpse like it weighed nothing. His boots hit the metal floor with heavy thuds as he walked forward. The docking bay, which had been full of noise and activity moments before, fell completely silent. Aliens scattered out of his path. The Draxians, who had been laughing, backed away, their eyes wide. A group of insectoid Vrel pressed themselves against the wall. Even the station security, armed and trained, kept their distance. The human did not look at any of them. He just walked, his expression blank, heading toward the central corridor that led to the council chambers. Una found herself moving without thinking, following him. Her heart pounded in her chest. Who was this man? Where had he come from? And how in the name of Earth had he killed a void stalker? By the time she reached the council chamber entrance, a crowd had formed. Word spread fast on the station. Aliens whispered to each other in dozens of languages, all asking the same questions. The station's security chief, a 4-armed Kravik named Ven, tried to stop the human at the door. "You cannot enter with that thing," Ven said, his voice shaking slightly despite his size. The human finally spoke. His voice was rough, like he had not used it in a long time. "I have business with the council. The council is in session." "You need an appointment." The human pushed past him. Not roughly, not violently. He just walked forward with such certainty that Ven stepped aside without thinking. The council chamber was a circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central floor. Representatives from 50 different species sat in their designated spots. At the highest seat, High Counselor Vrax, a massive reptilian with green scales and cold yellow eyes, was speaking about trade regulations. He stopped mid-sentence when the human entered. The chamber doors had opened automatically, and the human walked to the center of the floor. Every eye in the room locked onto him and the monster he carried. Una slipped in through the back, her diplomatic credentials allowing her access. The human reached the center, then bent down and let the void stalker's body slide off his shoulders. It hit the floor with a wet thump that echoed through the silent chamber. Black blood, thick like oil, spread slowly across the polished floor. High Counselor Vrax stood up, his voice booming. "What is the meaning of this?" "Who are you?" The human straightened, rolling his shoulders. "My name is Minho. I am from the human colony ship New Dawn. He paused and something dark passed over his face. Or I was. 6 months ago, a pack of these creatures attacked the ship. 300 people were on board. Families, children, elderly. The creatures tore the ship apart. The chamber remained silent. Una felt tears prick her eyes. She had heard about the New Dawn. It had been listed as lost, presumed destroyed by system failure. No one had mentioned Voidstalkers. Minho continued, his voice steady but hard. You wanted proof that humans can handle ourselves in the outer sectors. You said we needed protection because we are too weak to defend our own people. He gestured to the corpse at his feet. Here is your proof. This thing killed 300 humans. I tracked it for 6 months across 4 systems. I found its pack. All 12 of them. He looked directly at Vrax. They are all dead. The council erupted. Aliens shouted in their own languages, some in fear, others in disbelief. Vrax slammed his hand down on his desk, the sound like thunder. Silence, he roared. The chamber quieted. You claim you killed 12 Voidstalkers? Alone? Yes. Impossible. Humans are not capable. I did not ask what you think humans are capable of, Minho interrupted. I am telling you what I did. Those creatures murdered my wife. They murdered my daughter. They murdered 298 other people. I made sure they would never murder anyone again. Una covered her mouth with her hand. His wife, his daughter. She looked at the scars on his face, the exhaustion in his eyes, and understood. This man had walked through hell. A smaller counselor, a feline-like alien named Taman, leaned forward. Unlike the others, he did not look angry or afraid. He looked fascinated. How? He asked simply. Minho turned to face him. Because I am human. And humans do not quit. The chamber exploded into arguments again, but Una could not hear them anymore. She stared at Minho, at this broken, determined man who had done the impossible. For the first time in 3 years, she felt something she had not allowed herself to feel. Hope. Maybe the galaxy did not know humans as well as they thought. The council took Minho to a private chamber for questioning. Una used her authority as human ambassador to attend. Security guards stood at the door, but they looked nervous. The dead Voidstalker had been moved to a research lab, but everyone was still talking about it. High Counselor Vrax sat across from Minho, with Counselor Taman beside him. The feline alien had insisted on being present. Several other counselors watched through a video feed. Tell us everything, Vrax said. His tone was less aggressive now, more cautious. Start from the beginning. Minho stared at the table for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was flat, like he was reading a report. The New Dawn was a colony ship. We were heading to Kepler 442b to start a new settlement. My wife Hana was a botanist. She was going to help grow food in the new colony. My daughter Nari was 7 years old. She liked drawing pictures of plants. He stopped, swallowing hard. Una saw his hands curl into fists on the table. I was not on the ship. I was a rescue specialist, trained for extreme environment operations. I was on a different transport 2 days behind them. When they did not check in at the relay point, I knew something was wrong. Taman leaned forward. What did you find? Minho closed his eyes. Debris, bodies, the ship was torn open. When I saw the claw marks, I knew what had done it. Voidstalkers. But I did not understand why. These creatures usually attack for food, then leave. This was different. They had taken their time. They had hunted the survivors through the ship. Vrax shifted uncomfortably. How do you know this? I found the log recordings. The captain documented everything before he died. Minho's voice went quieter. I heard my wife's voice. She was trying to protect Nari. She was telling her it would be okay, that someone would come save them. He opened his eyes, and they were hard as stone. No one came. By the time I arrived, it had been 8 hours. Everyone was dead. The room was silent except for the hum of the station's air systems. I tracked the Voidstalker's trajectory. They had left a trail. Radiation signatures, biological matter. Most people cannot track them because Voidstalkers move randomly, but these ones did not. They were moving in a pattern. They were hunting other ships, Vrax frowned. So you decided to pursue them, alone? Why not report this to military authorities? Minho looked at him like he was stupid. How long would that take? File a report, wait for investigation, wait for approval, wait for a fleet to assemble? Weeks, months? How many more ships would they destroy while everyone filled out forms? Military protocol exists for a reason. Protocol does not bring back the dead. Minho cut him off. I had the training. I had the supplies. and I had nothing left to lose. So I followed them. Taemin's eyes narrowed with interest. Tell us about the hunt. Minho stood up and walked to the window. He stared out at the stars. Void stalkers are ambush predators. They hide in asteroid fields or near dead planets. They can sense heat signatures from far away. They are faster than most ships, and their armor can take direct hits from plasma weapons. You cannot outfight them. Then how did you kill them? Taemin asked. I did not try to outfight them. I outlasted them. He turned back to face them. Humans are endurance hunters. We evolved that way. On Earth, our ancestors hunted animals that were bigger and stronger than us. We did not chase them down in a sprint. We followed them. For hours, for days. We walked while they ran. They would stop to rest, and we would keep coming. Eventually, they collapsed from exhaustion. Then we killed them, Vrax shook his head. Void stalkers do not tire. They can survive in space indefinitely. But they do have patterns, Minho said. I watched them for 3 weeks before I made my first move. I learned where they nested, how they communicated, when they were most vulnerable. The first one I killed was sleeping in an asteroid cave. I rigged the entrance with explosives and collapsed it. The creature was trapped. It took 2 days to die, suffocating under tons of rock. Yuna felt sick but also amazed. This was not the heroic story she had expected. This was brutal and calculating. The second one I lured into a radiation field near a dying star. Its armor protected it from weapons, but not from radiation. I wore a protective suit. It did not understand what was happening until it was too late. He counted on his fingers. The third and fourth I killed together. They were hunting a merchant ship. I hacked the ship's systems and overloaded its reactor. When they moved in to attack, I detonated it. The explosion did not kill them, but it damaged their armor. Then I finished them with armor-piercing rounds. The fifth one, enough, Vrax interrupted. We understand. You hunted them like an exterminator kills pests. No, Minho said sharply. Pests do not murder children for fun. I killed them like they were predators that needed to be removed. One by one, patiently, that is what humans do. We are not the fastest or strongest, but we are patient. We plan, we adapt, and we never stop. Taemin was making notes. How long did the entire hunt take? 6 months. The last 3 took the longest. They had learned I was hunting them. They became more careful, so I became more careful too. I studied their new patterns. The last one, the one I brought here, was the pack leader. Biggest and smartest. It took me into a debris field and tried to ambush me. What happened? Yuna asked quietly. Minho smiled, but there was no humor in it. It thought it was hunting me, but I had planted charges throughout the debris field 2 weeks earlier. When it attacked, I led it exactly where I wanted. Then I triggered the charges. The debris crushed its legs. I landed my ship and finished it with a blade. He pulled something from his belt, a long knife with a black stain on it. This was made from its own claw. I thought it was fitting. Vrax stared at him. You are either the bravest human I have ever met or the most insane. I am neither, Minho said. I am just a man who lost everything and had nothing better to do than make sure it never happens to anyone else. Counselor Taemin stood up. Hi, Counselor, we need to discuss this privately. Vrax nodded. Minho, you will wait outside. Ambassador Yuna, you too. In the corridor, Yuna looked at Minho. He seemed smaller now, tired. The anger that had fueled him was fading, leaving only exhaustion. Why did you come here? She asked. You could have just gone somewhere quiet, rested. Minho leaned against the wall. Because I listened to the New Dawn's final recordings. I heard people screaming for help that never came. I heard my daughter asking why no one was saving them. He looked at Yuna. You have been fighting to get humans respect in this galaxy. How is that working? Yuna felt tears in her eyes. Not well. I know. Because they do not respect words. They respect strength. So I showed them strength. He pushed off the wall. My wife and daughter are gone. I cannot bring them back. But maybe what I did will mean the next human colony does not die while waiting for someone to approve a rescue mission. The door opened. Taemin stepped out. The council wants to see you both again. Inside, Vrax looked troubled. Minho, what you did was reckless and violated several galactic laws. You operated as a vigilante, destroyed property, and brought a dangerous biological specimen to this station. Minho said nothing. However, Vrax continued, your actions also eliminated a significant threat. The Void Stalker pack you destroyed had been blamed for 17 missing ships over the past year. We did not know they were operating as an organized group. Taman spoke up. There is another matter. Warmaster Krellis of the Vrel species has challenged your account. He claims a human could not have accomplished this alone. He demands proof. The dead Voidstalker is not proof enough? Yuna asked. He suggests you found it already dead, or that you had help you are not admitting, Taman said. He is demanding a trial by combat. A test to prove human capability. Minho straightened. What kind of test? Vrax sighed. That is what we will discuss next. But understand this, Minho. The entire galaxy is watching now. Whatever you did in those 6 months has made humans interesting. What happens next will determine if we see your species as equals or as flukes. Minho met his gaze steadily. Then I guess we had better not fail. News of Minho's arrival spread through the station like fire. Within hours, everyone knew about the human who had killed 12 Voidstalkers. Some aliens were impressed. Others were afraid. Most were skeptical. Yuna sat in the human quarters section, a small area of the station where the few dozen humans lived and worked. The room was packed. Every human on the station had come to hear what was happening. Minho stood near the window, arms crossed, while Yuna explained the situation. The council is divided, she said. Some want to recognize what Minho did as proof of human capability. Others think it was luck or that he is lying. Who cares what they think, said Jinwoo, the station's human security officer. He was younger than Minho, maybe 25, with short hair and a military bearing. He has the body. That is all the proof anyone should need. It is not that simple, Yuna said. Warmaster Krellis is pushing for a formal challenge. He represents the Vrel species and several other factions. They profit from keeping humans classified as a protected species. A woman named Subin raised her hand. She was a scientist, small and quiet, with glasses that she constantly adjusted. What do you mean they profit from it? Yuna sighed. Protected species status means we cannot colonize freely or build military vessels. We have to buy protection from other species, rent ships, pay for security. It keeps us dependent. If we are reclassified as independent, we lose those restrictions. And they lose money, Jinwoo finished. So they want to prove we are still weak. Exactly, Yuna said. Krellis has proposed a challenge. There is a section of this station called the Deep Halls. It was abandoned 20 years ago after a contamination incident. It is now infested with Skraelings. Several people shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew about Skraelings. They were parasitic creatures, fast and vicious, that bred quickly in dark places. They hunted in packs and could kill most species in seconds. Krellis wants Minho to enter the Deep Halls and survive for 48 hours. If he can also clear out the Skraeling infestation, humanity's status will be upgraded to independent species. That is insane, someone said. Skraelings killed an entire Draxian military unit that tried to clear the Deep Halls 5 years ago. Minho spoke for the first time. How many Skraelings are estimated to be there? Yuna checked her tablet. Hundreds. Maybe 1,000. The sensors do not work well in that section anymore. And if I refuse, then nothing changes. We stay as we are. Protected, restricted, dependent. Minho walked to the center of the room. I have a question for all of you. How many times have you been treated like children? How many times has someone from another species talked down to you? Acted like you needed their help to do basic things? Hands went up slowly around the room. Then more. Finally, everyone had their hand raised except Minho himself. I thought so. I felt the same way. Every human does. He looked around at them. When I was hunting those Voidstalkers, I was alone. No one told me I was too weak. No one said I needed supervision. I just did what needed to be done. And I succeeded. You are a trained specialist, someone argued. Most of us are not soldiers. Neither were the people on the New Dawn, Minho said quietly. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, regular people. But they fought to the end anyway. That is what humans do. Jinwoo stood up. Are you saying you are going to accept this challenge? I am saying I did not survive 6 months in hell just to back down now. But I will not force this on anyone. If you want humanity to change, to be seen as equals, then someone has to prove it is possible. I am willing to be that person. Yuna felt torn. As a diplomat, she knew this was risky. Years of careful negotiation could be destroyed if Minho failed. But as a human who had spent 3 years being dismissed and belittled, part of her wanted to scream yes. I am going with you, Jinwoo said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. He stood straight, military discipline in every line of his body. I am trained security. I know combat. If you are going into the deep halls, you should not go alone. Jinwoo, you do not have to, Yuna started. Yes, I do, he interrupted. I joined station security because I thought I could make a difference. But every day aliens treat me like I am playing dress-up. Like a real security officer would be bigger, stronger, better. I am tired of it. A man named Do-hyun stood up next. He was older, maybe 50, with gray in his hair. I am a merchant. I spent 30 years buying and selling goods on this station. Every contract, every deal, I have to work twice as hard because I am human. If there is a chance to change that, I want to help. Then Minji stood. She was an engineer, young and nervous looking. I can help too. I know the station's layout. I worked on repairs in some of the old sections. One by one, more humans stood up. Within minutes, 15 people had volunteered. They were not soldiers. They were maintenance workers, scientists, teachers, merchants. Ordinary people who were tired of being treated as less than everyone else. Minho looked at them all. If you come with me, some of you might die. I cannot promise your safety. We know, Jinwoo said, but at least we would die proving we are not weak. Yuna felt tears in her eyes again. This is not what I wanted. I wanted to change things through proper channels, through diplomacy. Minho walked over to her. You have been trying that for 3 years. Has anything changed? She shook her head. Then maybe it is time to try something different. Respect through words only works when the other side listens. They are not listening to you, Ambassador. Maybe they will listen to action. That night, Yuna met with Counselor Taemin privately. He had requested the meeting, which surprised her. The feline alien was one of the few who had never openly mocked humans. Your people are fools, Taemin said, though his tone was not unkind. They should refuse this challenge. I know, Yuna admitted, but I understand why they are not refusing. Taemin poured himself a drink from a small flask. I have studied 400 species across this galaxy. Do you know what I have learned? Every species has a strength. Draxians have armor and strength. Frail have numbers and intelligence. My people have speed and reflexes. But humans, he paused. Humans should not exist, Yuna frowned. What do you mean? You are too weak, too fragile, too slow. Evolution should have killed you before you ever left your caves. But somehow you not only survived, you thrived. You conquered your entire planet without any natural advantages. That should be impossible. So what are you saying? Taemin looked at her with his large cat-like eyes. I am saying that impossibility is humanity's strength. You do things you should not be able to do because you refuse to accept that you cannot. I have been watching Minho. He should have died 100 times during his hunt, but he did not. Want to know why? Why? Because he did not know he was supposed to die. He just kept going. Taemin finished his drink. That is why I am scared of humans, Ambassador. Not because you are strong, but because you do not understand when to quit. The next morning, Minho and his volunteers stood before the council. The chamber was packed with observers from dozens of species, all wanting to see what would happen. War Master Krellis stepped forward. He was insectoid with multiple arms and a clicking voice. The challenge is simple. Survive 48 hours in the deep halls. Eliminate the Skraeling infestation. If you succeed, humanity will be granted independent status. If you fail, humanity will remain protected species for the next century. No appeals. Do you accept? Minho did not hesitate. We accept. But I have one condition. You are not in a position to make demands, Krellis said. I am not demanding. I am clarifying. When we succeed, not if when, humanity gets full independent status. That means colony rights, military rights, self-governance, everything. Arrogant, Krellis hissed. Very well. When you fail, it will be even more satisfying. High Counselor Vrax stood. The challenge will begin in 6 hours. You will be sealed in the deep halls with basic supplies only. We will monitor by surveillance. If you trigger the emergency beacon, we will extract you, but that counts as failure. Are we clear? Clear, Minho said. As they left the chamber, Jinwoo walked beside Minho. 6 hours is not much time to prepare. Minho smiled slightly. I have been preparing for 6 months. Trust me, we are ready. But as they walked toward the deep hall's entrance, Yuna could not shake the feeling that they were walking toward either humanity's greatest victory or its worst defeat, and there was no way to know which until it was over. The entrance to the deep halls was a heavy blast door covered in warning signs in 20 different languages. All of them said the same thing. Danger. Contaminated. Do not enter. Minho stood in front of the door with his team of 15 humans. They had been given basic supplies, flashlights, water, some food, and simple tools. No weapons. War Master Krellis had insisted on that rule. If humans are truly capable, they should not need weapons, he had said with his clicking laugh. Jinwoo checked his flashlight for the third time. Beside him, Minji adjusted her tool belt. Dohyun took deep breaths, trying to stay calm. None of them were soldiers. They were just people who had decided they were done being treated like they were helpless. Listen up, Minho said. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. Once we go in, that door locks behind us for 48 hours. The air is breathable, but the temperature will drop. The lights do not work. The Skraelings can see in the dark better than we can. They are fast and they hunt in packs. You are not making this sound better, someone muttered. Minho almost smiled. I am not trying to. I am being honest. But here is what we have that they do not. We can think. We can plan. We can work together. Skraelings are animals. Smart animals, but still animals. We are humans. We built cities and spaceships with nothing but our brains and our hands. We can handle some ugly bugs. Through the observation window, the council watched. Yuna stood with them, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles were white. Counselor Taman stood beside her. War Master Krellis watched with his compound eyes, clearly expecting to see humans die. The blast door opened with a screech of metal. Cold air rushed out, carrying a smell like rot and rust. Beyond the door was darkness. Stay together, Minho said. Stay alert. And stay alive, they entered. The door sealed behind them with a final, heavy thud. The deep halls were a maze of corridors and rooms. The station's old maintenance section, abandoned and forgotten. Minho led the team forward slowly, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The walls were covered in a strange growth, something between fungus and slime. The floor was sticky in places. This place is disgusting, Minji whispered. Quiet, Jinwoo said. Listen, they all stopped. In the silence, they could hear it. A skittering sound like claws on metal. It came from all around them, the walls, the ceiling, ahead and behind. They were not alone. Defensive circle, Minho ordered. Backs together, lights out. Lights out? Someone hissed. Are you insane? Our lights tell them exactly where we are. Now turn them off. Reluctantly, they obeyed. The darkness swallowed them. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of their own breathing and that terrible skittering growing closer. Then glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, dozens of them, green and yellow, reflecting the faint emergency lights that still worked. The Skraelings had found them. Lights on, now, Minho shouted. 15 flashlights blazed at once, aimed in all directions. The Skraelings shrieked and scattered. They were horrible things, about the size of a large dog with too many legs and mouths full of needle teeth. Their skin was pale and wet-looking. They do not like bright light, Minho said. Remember that. Jinwoo, Minji with me. The rest of you find a defensible room. Move, the team split up. While most of them ran for a nearby room with only one entrance, Minho, Jinwoo, and Minji went deeper into the halls. They found what they were looking for, an old power junction box. Can you get it working? Minho asked Minji. She was already opening the panel. Maybe. The system is old, but the main line should still have power. If I can reroute it. Her hands moved quickly, pulling wires and connecting circuits. Behind them, Jinwoo kept watch. More Skraelings were gathering. They were getting braver, moving closer. Any time now would be good, he said. Almost. Got it. The lights flickered, then came on. Not all of them, but enough. The corridor lit up and the Skraelings screamed and ran, unable to stand the brightness. That will buy us time, Minho said. But they will adapt. Come on. They returned to the team. Everyone was shaken but alive. Dohyun had improvised a barricade using old furniture. This is insane, he said. There are hundreds of them. I know, Minho said. That is why we are not going to fight them head-on. We are going to make this place unlivable for them. Over the next 12 hours, the team worked methodically. Minji showed them how to override the station's environmental controls. They started raising the temperature in sections, making it too hot for Skraelings. They found old cleaning chemicals and mixed them to create strong-smelling barriers that the creatures avoided. They used sound, banging on pipes to create loud noises that disrupted the Skraelings' hunting patterns. It was not pretty, and it was not heroic. It was practical, ugly survival. On the station, the council watched in silence. The aliens had expected a fight, humans versus Skraelings in direct combat. Instead, they saw humans using intelligence and teamwork to change the environment itself. They are not even trying to kill them, one counselor said. Confused, they are doing something better, Taemin said quietly. They are making it so the Skraelings have nowhere to hide. By hour 24, the team was exhausted but making progress. They had cleared 3 sections, driving the Skraelings deeper into the halls, but there were still too many and they were getting desperate. We found something, Jinwoo said, returning from a scouting mission. There is a central nest in the old cargo bay. That is where they are breeding. Minho nodded. Then that is where we need to go. The cargo bay was enormous and it was full of Skraelings. Hundreds of them, maybe more. They covered the walls and ceiling like a living carpet. In the center was their nest, a massive structure of organic material and station debris. We cannot fight that many, someone said. We should just survive the time limit and get out. No, Minho said. If we want to prove humans are not weak, we do not just survive. We win. He turned to Minji. Can you rig the cargo bay's blast doors to seal? Yes, but why? She stopped, understanding. Oh no, what? Jinwoo asked. Minho pointed to the bay's exterior wall. This section has an emergency decompression system. If we seal the internal doors, open the exterior, everything in this bay gets sucked into space. Including us if we are still inside, Doyun said. That is why we set it on a timer. We get out, seal the doors, then trigger decompression from outside. The Skraelings die. The nest is destroyed. The deep halls are clear. That is a terrible plan, Jinwoo said. We have to get close to the nest to set the timer. That means going through hundreds of those things. Minho looked at his team. They were tired, scared, and out of their depth. But they were still standing. I am not going to order anyone to do this. It is volunteer only. Every hand went up. Minho felt something in his chest, pride maybe, or hope. All right, here's what we do. The plan was simple but terrifying. They created noise and light at one end of the bay, drawing most of the Skraelings away. Then Minho, Jinwoo, and Minji ran through the gap toward the nest. The creatures realized the trick quickly and swarmed after them. They ran. The Skraelings were fast, but the humans had determination. Minji fell once and Jinwoo pulled her up without stopping. They reached the control panel near the nest. How long do you need? Minho asked. 2 minutes to set the timer, 5 minutes on the timer itself, Minji said, her hands already working. We do not have 2 minutes, Jinwoo said. The Skraelings were surrounding them. Minho grabbed a piece of pipe from the floor. Then I guess I better buy you some time. He stepped forward, and when the first Skraeling lunged at him, he swung. The pipe connected with a crunch. The creature flew back. Another came from his left. He pivoted and hit it mid-leap. Then another. And another. He could not kill them all. He did not have to. He just had to keep them busy. Jinwoo joined him using a metal bar. They fought back-to-back, not with skill or grace, but with desperate fury. Every hit drove the creatures back. Every second gave Minji more time. Done, she shouted. Timer set. 5 minutes, run! Minho yelled. They ran. The team at the cargo bay entrance opened the internal doors just enough for them to slip through, then sealed them tight. On the other side, the Skraelings threw themselves at the doors, but they held. Everyone back to the entrance, Minho ordered. We have 4 minutes. They ran through the deep halls, not looking back. The Skraelings that remained in the corridors fled in confusion. At 3 minutes, they reached the blast door entrance. At 2 minutes, they were through the security airlock. At 1 minute, they sealed themselves in the observation room with the council. At 0, the cargo bay's exterior doors opened. The sound was like thunder. Every loose object, including hundreds of Skraelings, was sucked into space in seconds. The nest exploded, its organic material freezing instantly in the vacuum. Then the emergency systems kicked in, resealing the exterior doors. Silence. War Master Krellis stared at the monitors. The deep halls were empty. The Skraelings were gone. The humans had done the impossible. Minho collapsed against the wall, exhausted. His team was alive. All 15 of them. Battered, bruised, but alive. Yuna ran to them, tears streaming down her face. You did it. You actually did it? Minho looked up at the council members watching them. We are not weak, he said simply. We are just different. And we are done apologizing for it. The council chamber was more crowded than it had ever been. News of the Deep Halls trial had spread across the entire galaxy. Representatives from species that had never attended council sessions were now present. all wanting to witness what would happen next. Minho and his team sat in a special section reserved for them. They had been given medical treatment and clean clothes, but they still looked exhausted. Bruises covered their arms and faces. Minji's hand was bandaged. Jinwoo had a cut across his forehead, but they sat with their backs straight, refusing to show weakness. Yuna stood beside them as their ambassador. Her heart pounded as High Counselor Vrax called the session to order. "We are gathered to render judgment on the trial by challenge," Vrax announced. His reptilian face was unreadable. The humans were tasked with surviving 48 hours in the deep halls and eliminating the Skraeling infestation. The surveillance footage shows they accomplished both objectives with time to spare. War Master Krellis stood up, his insectoid body clicking with agitation. "I move to reject the results. The humans used trickery, not strength. They did not fight honorably." "There was no requirement for honor," Counselor Taman said sharply. "The challenge was survival and elimination. They succeeded by using intelligence and adaptability. Are we now punishing species for being smart?" "They are still weak," Krellis insisted. "Look at them. They are injured. A proper warrior species would have taken no damage." Minho stood up. Yuna tried to grab his arm, but he gently pulled away. "May I speak?" Vrax looked surprised but nodded. "You may." Minho walked to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed him. "War Master Krellis is right. We are weak. Compared to most species here, humans have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced strength or speed. A Draxian could tear me apart with one hand. A Vrel could outthink me in strategy. Your species," he pointed at Krellis, "could probably lay eggs that would produce warriors faster than we could train them." Krellis looked confused. This was not the defense he had expected. "But here is what you do not understand," Minho continued. "Weakness is not the same as helplessness. Yes, we are injured. Yes, the deep halls hurt us. But we are still here. We are still standing. Do you know why?" The chamber was silent. "Because humans do not win by being the strongest. We win by refusing to quit. Your species look at challenges and calculate if you can overcome them with your natural abilities. If you cannot, you retreat or call for help. Humans look at challenges and ask one question: how long can we keep trying before we die? And the answer is always longer than you think." He pointed at the screen showing footage from the deep halls. "You wanted to see us fight those creatures directly. You wanted claws versus claws, strength versus strength. But that is your way of fighting, not ours. We used our brains. We changed the environment. We worked together. We turned our weakness into strategy." Minho's voice grew stronger. "My ancestors on Earth were not the biggest or strongest creatures. They were prey. Everything hunted them. But they survived because they learned to use tools. They learned to work in groups. They learned to outthink predators that could kill them easily. And eventually they became the dominant species on the entire planet." He walked slowly around the chamber, looking at each counselor. "I killed 12 Voidstalkers. Not because I am stronger than them. I am not. But because I was more patient, more determined, more willing to sacrifice. That is what makes humans dangerous. Not our strength, but our refusal to accept defeat." Taman leaned forward. "What are you asking for, Minho?" "I am not asking for anything. I am telling you what is going to happen. You can grant us independent status or you can refuse. Either way, humans are done being treated like children. We will colonize. We will build. We will defend ourselves. We will do it with your permission or without it. But we will do it." Vrax's eyes narrowed. "That sounds like a threat. It is not a threat. It is a fact. You have seen what one human can do when they have nothing left to lose. Do you really want to see what millions of humans can do when they decide they are done waiting for permission?" War Master Krellis stood again. "This is unacceptable. They are openly defying council authority." "Are they?" Taman stood as well. "Or are they simply stating an inevitable truth? I have been studying humans since they first made contact with galactic civilization. Do you know what I learned? Every time you tell a human something is impossible, they find a way to do it anyway. We can either acknowledge this reality or be surprised by it later." Other counselors began arguing. Some agreed with Krellis. Others sided with Taman. The chamber erupted into chaos. Vrax slammed his gavel down. "Order. We will vote. The question before us is simple. Should humanity be granted independent species status with all rights and responsibilities that entails?" "Before you vote," Minho said, "I want you to know something. Those 15 people who went into the deep halls with me, none of them were soldiers. Minji is an engineer. Do-hyun is a merchant. Jinwoo is security, but he never saw real combat before this. They were just regular people who decided they were tired of being seen as weak. He gestured to his team. One by one they stood. If regular humans can do what we did, imagine what trained humans could do. Imagine what happens when we stop holding ourselves back. Because we are afraid of offending you, we have been polite. We have been patient. We have followed your rules. But the universe does not reward politeness. It rewards strength. And humans are stronger than you think. Vrax looked at Minho for a long moment. Finally, he said, the council will vote. All in favor of granting humanity independent status? Taemin's hand went up immediately. Then another counselor and another. Slowly, more hands raised. Even some who had mocked humans before voted yes. They had seen the footage. They had watched humans do the impossible. When the count finished, it was not unanimous. But it was enough. By majority vote, Vrax announced, humanity is hereby granted independent species status. You may colonize freely, build military vessels, and govern yourselves without council oversight. You will be held to the same standards as all other independent species. The chamber erupted again, but this time it was different. There was no laughter, no mockery. There was respect, fear, and in some cases, admiration. Yuna felt tears streaming down her face. 3 years of diplomatic work had just been achieved in 3 days through pure determination. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Krella stood stiffly. This is a mistake. You will regret this. Maybe, Vrax said. But it is done. The galaxy will have to adapt to this new reality. After the session ended, Minho and his team were surrounded by reporters and observers from dozens of species. Questions flew at them from all directions. How did they plan their strategy? Would more humans take combat training? What colonies were they planning? Minho pushed through the crowd until he found a quiet corridor. Yuna found him there, leaning against the wall with his eyes closed. You did it, she said softly. You changed everything. We did it, he corrected. All of us. What will you do now? You could be a hero. The council would probably give you any position you wanted. Minho opened his eyes. I am not a hero. I am just a man who lost everything and got angry enough to do something about it. He pushed off the wall. I am going home. Back to Earth. I want to see blue skies again. And then? I do not know. Maybe I will teach people how to survive. Maybe I will just sit in a quiet place and try to forget. He looked at her. You spent 3 years fighting for humanity with words. I spent 6 months fighting with actions. We both got the same result. Maybe the galaxy needed both, Yuna smiled. Maybe they did. As Minho walked toward the docking bay, other humans stopped him. They shook his hand, thanked him, asked him questions. He was polite but distant. He had not done this for glory or recognition. He had done it because no one else would. When he reached his ship, he found Jinwoo waiting. I am coming with you, the younger man said. If you are going to teach people how to survive, you need help. I did not say I was definitely teaching. You will, Jinwoo said confidently. Because that is what humans do. We learn, we adapt, and we pass it on. Minho almost smiled. All right. But you buy the first round when we get to Earth. As his ship prepared to launch, Minho looked back at the station. Somewhere in there, his wife and daughter's names were recorded in a memorial database. They had died because the galaxy saw humans as too weak to defend themselves. But their deaths had sparked something. A change that would echo across generations. The galaxy had said humans were weak. They had been wrong. Humans were not weak. They were just getting started. In the following months, human colonies expanded rapidly. Ships were built. Military academies opened. Other species watched with a mixture of concern and curiosity as humanity spread across the stars. Some species still looked down on humans. But they did it more carefully now. Because everyone had seen the footage. Everyone knew the story of the man who carried a void stalker into the council chamber. Everyone knew what 15 ordinary humans had done in the deep halls. The message was clear. Underestimate humans at your own risk. On Earth, in a small garden memorial, Minho planted a tree for Hana and one for Nari. He told them what he had done, what it had cost, and what it had achieved. He told them that humanity would never be seen as weak again.